Welcome back to Croy's Chromosome Chronicles. Today we're looking at the second in our series of videos on exchange surfaces. Today it's all about capillary and tissue exchange. Now what is capillary and tissue exchange? Well, it's an exchange surface, so it's going to be thin, moist and have a large surface area. Specifically here we're talking about the exchange of molecules from your capillaries into your body's tissues, any body tissue. Now just through general knowledge, you know that your blood gets reoxygenated through your lungs, and that when you eat food, the nutrients from that food is going to enter your blood, and that's really important because your body needs those various nutrients. But what you might not know is how that exchange actually takes place at your body tissues, and that's what this capillary tissue exchange is all about. The easiest way to think about this is to think about a muscle tissue. I like to think specifically about a bicep. Why? Because your bicep, you can see both sides of it. So let's imagine, not that it quite works like this, but let's imagine a artery coming from your heart, coming up, down into this part of your arm, going across your bicep. What would that be? That would be your capillaries. So up through an artery, going into capillaries, those capillaries going all the way through that muscle tissue, giving off all those nutrients. That's where the exchange is going to be. The remaining liquid is going to go into a vein at this side of your muscle tissue, come back up here, come down and back to your heart. So let's think of it like that. Let's have a closer look at exactly what's happening. Here we can see an artery, we can see a bunch of capillaries, as well as some body tissue cells and a vein. The blood is going to come into this exchange surface through an artery, and remember, blood moving through an artery always moves at high pressure. The artery itself can maintain that high pressure because it's very, very thick. However, when that blood at high pressure reaches the capillaries, what's logically going to happen? Think of a hose. Water moving at high pressure, at the end of the hose, boom, all that water comes out. It's the exact same thing when you're talking about arteries and capillaries. When the blood from an artery moves into capillaries, you get a pfft, where some of the liquid and nutrients from the blood will come out through the capillaries and into the surrounding tissues. Now it's quite a high pressure system, so you can't get any selective movement happening here. You're simply getting a pushing out of different types of nutrients from the blood. What sort of things would come out? Well, specifically here we're talking about water, quite a bit of it, glucose, amino acids and oxygen. As that blood moves along the capillaries, you start to get a decrease in pressure. Again, think about a hose under high pressure, but once it comes out the end of the hose, bloop, it goes into low pressure. So as that blood moves along the capillaries, we start to decrease that pressure. We can start to get some selective diffusion happening back into the blood. Now let's have a look at these parts that came out. Water, glucose, amino acids and oxygen. Now it makes sense that your body tissue cells are going to need all of that glucose, all of the amino acids and all of the oxygen. So that's going to go from the body tissues into the cells themselves. Some of the water is going to go back in, and some of it is going to remain in the tissues for now. Let's have a look at the right hand side of our diagram now, once we've got low pressure in the capillaries. Now the cells themselves are going to be producing certain things that they're going to have in high concentration that they want to give off. Specifically here, we're talking about carbon dioxide from respiration, as well as general wastes. So now that we're at the right side, what we call the venule end of our capillaries, we're under low pressure and we can start to get diffusion of carbon dioxide and waste from the tissues themselves into the capillaries, and that happens. You'll also get some diffusion of water back into the capillaries, but you're also going to get diffusion of that water into the lymphatic system. Because remember, the job of the lymphatic system is to take up excess water as well as fats. That blood then moves into our vein and it's going to head back towards the heart. So that's capillary exchange. A little bit tricky because we need to start talking about pressure, but it should be something you can grasp. Remember, blood moving through an artery is going to come in at high pressure. When it hits that capillary network, you get that pfft, where you get lots of small nutrients moving out, things like water, glucose, amino acids and oxygen. Some of those things are going to be taken in by the cells. Some will diffuse back into the capillaries. Once you reach low pressure at the venule end, excess water goes into the lymphatic system. That blood then moves into the vein and moves off back to the heart. I hope it helped.